How would you say the experience was for open source, and how critical it is to be a part of the business strategy? Like from back then to today, like, is it essential? And then what are the items that you need to be aware of when you implement open source software, etc.?
It's a good question, and I've always viewed my role as is not to be a zealot, but to help organizations understand how they can benefit practically from open source. And whether it's a startup that's building their products on open source and trying to figure out how to create a business model around open source, or it's a large enterprise that's deploying 10,000 different open source components and now wants to begin to figure out how to contribute back and engage and participate in the ecosystem, the community. It is very important. And one of the particularly with the enterprise, one of the key aspects that I've always brought up is learn how to talk the language of your customers. Learn what matters to them. Learn how to help them be successful. There are a lot, even within an enterprise. I've dealt with so many, we get brought in lots of times by the people who are evangelizing open source in these large corporations, which is great. But they become a little, they don't understand why it's being pigeonholed, and they're not able to expand open source across the entire enterprise. It's because many times it's because they're using the wrong language. They're not understanding how to relate to executives who have different goals and objectives than they do. They're trying to push open source as it has great features and functionality, and it's lower cost, and it's transparent, and blah, 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 right? They're not talking about, okay, it's going to help us introduce a new product faster. It's going to help us open a new market faster. These are what executives care about. So always helped organizations understand that. With startups, it's the same thing. Just a kind of slightly different context, but the same issue that needs to be addressed. How to speak the language of your customers. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to, if you can't build a community or an ecosystem, there is very little reason to go open source. Really. Because that's when you're able to build a community that is self-sustaining, that is loyal, that is providing sincere input to your organization, that becomes loyal customers, that helps you get into new markets, innovate faster, differentiate faster. That's what open source is about.